Yeah,
We're
we're
going
live.
live.
We are live, man. We are live. That's what I'm talking about.
We'll do it live.
Doing it live.
Um, all right, let's get this bad boy shared across all platforms.
Of course, like always, man. Like
I know
always. Gotta share it up. Sharing is caring, you know.
it really is, dude. You make a great
Mm-hmm.
point. And one thing I'm glad that I don't have to share right now are these
Mm.
Pringles.
Oh man.
That's why I'm glad that this podcast is done across multiple states.
Yeah, man. Exactly. Otherwise, I'd be sharing in those Pringles, man. You'd be
Try
sharing.
to
Ooh, you got some good ones, man.
cheddar and sour cream, man. It's not
Yeah.
the normal cheddar. It's some
Mm-hmm.
cheddar and sour cream.
There's some good stuff, man.
Heck yeah. All right, let me get this shared. We're gonna do a rapido episode because I have a gig to get to.
Oh man, yes you do.
Show.
Ooh.
Classy, classy, bougie, and ratchet get up I got going right now. Just like Megan the Stallion, man. Um, so let's see. We're gonna actually I'll just power right through this. For the live stream listeners, it's gonna look a little weird for a second. But
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna promote this new song that I produced
Mm-hmm.
with Vaughn. That's about to drop less than a week from now. So I'm going to promote that real quick, and then we'll get right into the episode and everything. Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Got some ASMR action.
oh man, ah, tastes so good. All right, let's see if you listen to the audio version, this will all make way more sense than what you're about to hear. So let's go ahead and do it. 3, 2, 1. All right, before we start this week's episode, got a special thing I want to do here. I want to give people a sneak peek of the new song by our friend Devon Dorset. I've had him on podcast a couple of times, and he's the third amigo in this whole setup here.
Mm-hmm.
But brand new tune that I produced. I actually feature on it too, but I mixed it and mastered it. And we're really excited about it. It's gotten a good response just from the few people who've shared it with. This is Telly. Let's take a listen real fast. You know what would help?
Mm.
If I was recording. There we go.
Yeah, that would help. That would help just a little bit.
All right, let's try it from the top because I didn't want to do it.
Rip, 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 rip.
Yeah, let's roll that thing back. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, before we jump into this week's episode, I want to give people a very special preview of the new song by our friend Devon Dorset, good friend of the show. I feature on the track. I produced it, mixed, and mastered it. So a lot of work put into it between the two of us. Let's take a listen to Telly. 3, 2, 1. Now, the song comes out on Friday, September 17th. If you're listening before then, go ahead and click the link in the description of this episode to pre-save it on Spotify. That way you'll be notified right when the song drops. And let us know what you think about it, whether it's on our Facebook or Instagram or any of those platforms. Let us know how you feel about the song. We're very excited to share it with you. This is going to be a fun one. It's one of my personal favorites that we've put out, and can't wait to share it with all of you. So with that said, we got some good things we want to talk about this week. One of our topics is going to be Apple. You know, they have branded themselves as kind of the gatekeeper of digital privacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
in a couple of updates in the new iOS have people scratching their heads and a little concern as to what they're doing with your own data and how they're using your photos for their own information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have some hot takes on that one that I want to give. Where, to be quite honest, I feel like the anger is a little misplaced. Um, But that's one of the things we want to talk about. And then Denison, what's the other thing you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of talk about we're all, still in this pandemic. It's crazy to think that we're still going on in a whole pandemic, but it kind of shows that even corporations are still kind of taking it as seriously as it should. So we're really going to talk about Microsoft, the fact that they're indefinitely postponing their return to office for all of their workers. Or I should really say, sorry, their U.S. offices. So there's a specific there. So I feel like that's kind of big, especially because you have Apple and Google already trying to bring their people back, and Microsoft is holding off when it comes to this new COVID variant, the Delta variant, and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be a great discussion that we're going to have kind of going into that, and I have a few interesting takes on it as well. So,
well, it's definitely something that surprisingly is getting heated argument on both sides, whether people should be back in the office or not. Kind of wild. Wouldn't we all want to take the advantage of being able to work from home? You think so?
Yeah, man. I think
for most jobs anyway. So good things to talk about this week. Let's go ahead and jump into it. But before we do,
you got to grab another good old chip of Pringles, man.
I'll have to.
So you are you a single chipper or are you a multiple chip, man? You got to take a whole sleeve in and just jump in.
I just double chipped that thing, man. That was a double chip.
Double chip, man?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
I mean, you get
chipper.
Double the flavor, and you get the actual crunch that I feel like the country deserves,
Okay. I see.
But
it's a nice long-lasting chip or long-lasting crunch, right?
It is. It kind of gives me tinnitus. There's so much crunch in it. But also,
might need to get that checked out.
Well, or tinnitus, whatever you call it. I'm sure you just saw me spew out that chip. There's vacuum too. So there's also like a Pringles wavy explosion, they call it, or something like that. They're actually dummy thick chips, right? It does not taste the same. It's not like a Lay's wavy. It's not like a Lay's or anything.
Hey, the Lay's wavies, man. That hits. That's the good stuff.
The texture of this is more like a Funyun on these thick Pringles.
Oh, that's weird.
And we know all there is inside is air on a Funyun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
you get like 5 seconds of flavor, and then the rest of it is just crunch.
I know. Yeah. So not really a fan. Plus they're spicy AF, as the kids say. So
they're spicy. Okay.
Spicy. Most of them are. I haven't found a flavor that's not yet. So
are you not a spicy person?
I am, but this is like you're gonna regret this on your next trip to the John. You're gonna, but on the Golden Throne, man, you're gonna regret that decision. That's how hot they are, man. It's like when I used to have cheat meal. You remember when I used to do cheat meal with Takis?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, I regret that every single time. There was never a time I was like, "This was a good idea," all the way through.
Hey, man, it's a great way to clean yourself out. That's all.
Yeah. You better have some Clorox ready to go. A little bit squeeze ball.
Stacked up on toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and do this thing. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm John.
And I'm Denison.
And this is the catch up. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Give him that deep bass. Give him that deep bass.
Yeah. You got to go deep with it.
Oh, my. Yeah. Talking my
Just got to get up close to the mic and make sure that you're enunciating all of your syllables. Just like we
Yeah,
got a comment on our YouTube channel saying, you gotta do a better job with your dialect. That's
yeah. I
so
was
funny.
like, I think you
That's
mean
such a funny
dictation.
comment.
Yeah, I think you mean diction, but like, yeah, you have
Hmm.
to do a better job with your dialect. Man, we from
Yeah,
America. Like,
exactly. I was thinking maybe he meant to say like dialogue, but who knows?
oh man, our dialogue is premium.
I
People should be
know
paying for this dialogue.
they should be, man. But hey, it's free 99, man. Free 99.
That's damn near free.
Exactly. um, yeah,
Uh,
man. So apparently, I got to work on my
dialect.
dialect a little bit.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm
Dude,
not American enough. So,
dude's sitting there watching. He's like, "You guys aren't from here, are you?"
yeah.
The hell. All right, let's
I
do
mean,
this.
hey, I don't think I ever proclaimed that I was from here. So, he's
True.
an
So,
astute observer, right?
and we do have an international audience, so
Yeah, we do.
yeah,
We
he
do.
could be from anywhere. So that's fair.
That's
Yeah,
true.
maybe he's from another country, and he thinks
Hmm.
that we're the ones that are speaking French wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, maybe he thinks we're British. I mean, sometimes I have been known to be. People say that I have a great British accent. All the time. Yeah, yeah. It's
Mhm.
strange. So maybe that's what it is.
How they tell you that, and also say you look like Kevin Durant.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Seems to contradict. All right,
Hmm.
let's go ahead and get into it. All right, 3, 2, 1. Before we get into those topics, I want to remind you guys of all the ways that you can connect with us outside of here. The main two things that we're looking for are a rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. It helps us know how we're doing, and it helps tell the algorithm to share the podcast with more potential listeners. So that'd be a great way to help us out. Another great way is to go to www. That's the World Wide Web.
Hmm.
Dot. That's a period. NoSignalRocks.com. From there, you'll see a drop down menu, and you can find the Ketchup Podcast on there. We have all of our merch and apparel, um, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, phone
Hmm.
cases,
Yep.
greens,
Everything
beans,
under the sun.
potatoes, tomatoes, you name it.
I think we
We
got
got.
beanies as well.
We do have some beanies. Yeah, and
Hmm.
with fall fastly approaching,
Hmm.
get you a good clean Ketchup Podcast beanie, man. They are clean
Yeah,
too.
man. They are.
They're
They
warm.
are.
They're like nicely
Stock
stitched.
up.
Yeah, stock up on stocking caps. So
Exactly.
we have those, and all of our episodes. You can listen to them on the website. You can check out all of our videos on the website. That's linked to our YouTube channel, where Dennison has been very active with some
Hmm.
shorts, which are very
Hmm.
trendy on YouTube right now, um, and uploading our full episodes as well.
Yep.
Um, so check that out over on the YouTube channel, and then follow us on Facebook. We're live streaming right now. The benefit of this is we get to have an open discussion with our listeners in real time while we're talking about these topics. So we're able to bring other people into the catch up too, which is a really great opportunity that we love to do every single week. We're also on Instagram. Just in all cases, search our podcast title, and email us at theketchupcast@gmail.com. And just
Hmm.
give it to them one more time.
Oh man. Yeah, you got to email us at theketchupcast@gmail.com. That's a great place where you can get in touch with us. You can present some ideas if you want to. You can also, it's just a great way for you to interact with us in a different form, in a different format, as well as uh, if you want to be featured on the podcast. It's a great way to do that. Reach out to us that way, and we can kind of go through that process. Um, just it's another way for you guys to interact with us, just like we have all of our other social media platforms. This is just another way you can do that. um But yeah, please
Yeah,
do.
please do. All of these are linked down in the description of this episode. This discrepancy of this episode. And
Description.
if you're, yeah, if you're about to, if you are watching the live stream, you can also find some of these links down below there as well. So yeah, with that said, let's jump into our first topic here. I want to start off with Apple. They have long, for many years, right? They used to have this ad. I don't know if you remember this when we were kids. It was like the movie 1984 that was adapted from the book. And it showed Big Brother, and it showed Apple throwing a hammer into the screen that was showing Big Brother talking, right?
Yeah.
And so it was basically their way to say, they've always said this, that your content is never more safe than when it's on an Apple product, right?
Well,
you don't need.
yeah.
Well, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I mean, I was just gonna say that I was like, it was also to say break away from the mold of normal PCs or whatever like that. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, and one of the things that they want to convey is, you don't need antivirus software. We talked not too long ago about how that ends up not being the case. They were hacked. Apple's systems were hacked. But they also say that, and they've stood up to the government against this with not selling your data, right? And in the case I want to talk about here, they're not. But this involves the new iOS 15, which every September, as long as iPhone's been out, they've had an iOS update, right? And it's a thing that,
or a big iOS update,
right? Yeah. Well, an entirely new version, and it's something that Apple fanatics look forward to. Even the casual consumers look forward to, except for the fact that it slows down your phone and makes it almost unusable. But other than that, people get excited over it. Well, there are a couple of new features in this that have people, a little frustrated. Some people a little frustrated. I want to get your take on it. One of them is, both of these are efforts to crack down on child pornography or solicitation. Okay. One of them is this feature scan. It's an algorithm, right? So not real people. So Apple says it's an algorithm that scans your photos on the cloud and searches to see if there are any elements of child pornography. Supposedly, there's a threshold that elements in these photos have to meet before it would sound an alarm. But even then, they claim that there have to be around 30 such cases of this before any alarm would be sounded. And then a
human reviewer.
Yes, thank you. A human reviewer would go in and supposedly only see these photos that were brought to their attention, right? And then the other feature is on iMessage, a separate algorithm built into the phone would scan, and this would be a protection service you'd set up for your child with a phone. Now, why? I'm going to sound old-fashioned for this, but why anybody under 12 needs a freaking iPhone, I don't understand. So does not make sense to me. Like, at the very most, I'll get my kid a flip phone, right?
Hey man, little Timmy needs to be able to call the cops, and if something's happening, needs to be able to call his parents, man. Hey, a lot of newer schools are requiring kids to be able to surf or browse the internet on their phone. So, stuff like that.
JavaScript flip phone.
So are they not going to have an iPad?
No, probably not, because I don't buy iPads around here. Not in my house.
Okay.
I'm not wasting all that money on a tablet. Anyway, so these messages would be scanned by this algorithm anytime a media message is sent. So photo or video, to see if there are elements of nudity in it, right? If there are,
Okay.
I think it's sending or receiving. Anyway, on the aspect of receiving, it would be blurred out. It would say, do you want to see this image? If so, it'll give you another warning, give the child another warning that says, this could be damaging in some form or fashion. And then, if you still accept it, it will send a notification to the parents to say they opened this photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in theory, it sounds great and it sounds safe. But what people don't like is trusting, or a lot of people can't trust that this is actually just an autonomous intelligence that's doing this and not keeping record of every piece of information that's sent and received, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you feel about that sentiment? A lot of people are saying Apple is lying, kind of a slippery slope thing. What else
Mm-hmm.
are they keeping record of that they're not telling you about?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think about that?
That's interesting. So I have a few thoughts on that. I mean, I guess one of my thoughts is if you thought by buying an iPhone your information was going to be actually private, then you are wrong. I mean, and that's just normal. Like, no matter how secure a phone is, it's not when it comes to the manufacturers who bought it, because yes, they may not be selling your data to others, but they are in fact using your data to be able to better advertise, or even just better um, uh, use your data to better market to you, or help, or whatever like that, right?
Yeah.
And yes, and I do believe Apple does a relatively decent job when it comes to keeping their not selling. That's the thing. You have to preface it by saying not selling
Right.
your information, because I don't think they do a big thing of selling your information. I think they do a big job of um, keeping that information in, so that way they can advertise to you, so that way you can buy more of their products and services. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So I guess my big take on it is that it kind of goes with the face of when people found out about the NSA listening to your phone calls and stuff like that. It's like, okay, they already, okay, what does that matter to me? Um, I do think it's interesting that they'll be doing it for like your children's phones, to make sure they're not like sexting or whatever like that. Um, because once it gets on the internet, it's out there for everybody to see. I guess the only thing for me is uh, how Apple is going to deal with that data.
Yeah.
Because legally wise, right? Uh, if I'm not mistaken, there's already laws in place that says the person who is, or there are bills that are being proposed, at least, that say whoever owns the data, or whoever is collecting the data and storing it, they are in charge of any legal ramifications. So if it gets out, they are in charge of essentially working with those users to um, fight the legal battles that they require, or whatever like that. They are in charge of it, so they are going to be fined and prosecuted as though they are the holders. Just like if the bank ran off with all of your money, you'd go after them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with your data. So I guess that's my big thing. It's like, are they going to be able to do that? I mean, what was it? It's probably been 7 years now but there was that big iCloud hack that happened where a lot of celebrities' photos got leaked and stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's right. I did forget about that. Yep,
Hmm.
that's right. All those
Um,
nudes, Jennifer Lawrence, and all that kind of stuff, and they were suing
hmm.
the people that shared those in tabloids. You know,
Yep,
it was kind of a
exactly.
wild time. I forgot about that.
Uh, yeah, so that's my kind of take on it. Eh, like I said, I think Apple's just another company like anybody else, and if you believe that they were going to keep your data private and no one but you are touching your data, you are sadly mistaken.
Yeah, I agree. We've talked about this before, and you know how I feel about the NSA stuff. I
Hmm.
don't think it. I don't know. I guess I have mixed feelings. I think it should be more strategically targeted,
Hmm.
rather than just listening to everyone about what it is that they do, because I think
Hmm.
that's incredibly big brother. And I think the thing that I do want to say before I share my opinion on this is I think that people need to not become complacent about protecting their privacy. We live in an age where there really is no privacy, but if we stop caring about that, then our information will just continually get extorted and exposed and sold for other people's gain. Um, so I think it is important. And so there are advocacy groups like that. And these are the ones that are raising the alarm in the case of Apple. And the thing that I find interesting about this is you're right. Apple does a great job keeping your information private. The other thing that they do, and that is to say keeping it to themselves, like we talked about with
Hmm.
the government when they wanted to get some information on that oh man, I forget what he was a suspect in, but they Apple wouldn't give it,
It was terrorist crimes of some sort.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So I respect them for that, even though that was a tough situation there. But um anytime that you put anything on the cloud, and this is the biggest thing about the cloud, what was awesome about the cloud, multiple things from a technical standpoint, for those developing it, they don't have to invest in huge storage spaces inside phones and computers, etc. Right? They
Hmm.
don't have to invest in that because it's all on this cloud. Now they are investing in that storage space on the cloud now,
Hmm.
but um, it's a different approach to providing that storage space. But the thing is, what the other smart thing about that for all these businesses is that's not in your possession anymore, right? You're using their service to store your information. So they have the
Exactly.
rights to your info by doing that,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
that is the summary of being a private corporation, right? So for anyone to have their photos on the cloud and then be upset that Apple may be looking at them, I think is kind of crazy and a little absurd on their part. But I will also say, Apple, what they say they're doing, because this is the thing, really only people that are high up in the technology world, in the data world, can really verify what they're saying. But as far as what they say that they're doing, they really are taking the steps to still keep your information as private as possible.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I also would have to say we have to take that face value because I don't care how many people they hire, no one's going to have the time to go through every single photo on every single user's iCloud, right?
Well, yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, and I actually did want to add too, real quick, is Apple has, after all of the like a lot of the feedback and uh, bl- uh, controversy that's been going on with the scanning of your phone stuff, they've actually postponed that feature. Um, so they are listening, but you're right.
yeah,
I mean, it's not going to be a person. It's only going to be a person probably until they get flagged to a certain point, and then you'll have a human look at those stuff.
Yeah.
Then at that time, again, there's that human factor, right? And people aren't perfect.
No, no, that seems like a very important position to have to hire for, right? A guy who's
Hmm.
monitoring photos for potential child pornography. You got to make
Hmm.
sure that guy passes his background checks for sure,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah, no, there are a lot of, and I know Apple is pushing back the release date on this feature because they want, it's just as much of a PR thing as is anything else. They want the proper information to be put out there so people understand how they're approaching this to cut down on child pornography and child solicitation,
Hmm.
while also keeping your privacy private. So,
Yeah.
one other argument that I've heard in regard to this, that I do want your opinion on, uh, Apple prides themselves in no back doors, right? No,
Hmm.
no ways for hackers to break in and steal, sell, solicit information. But wouldn't this technically be a backdoor? Doesn't this provide a backdoor in some way, shape, or form to get to, at the very least, people's photos?
Um, I I guess my thoughts on it is it doesn't provide any more of a backdoor than the backdoors that they've already had. Because the process of those images being flagged, fine, right? That's an AI that's doing all of that, so there's probably
Yeah,
not much of an issue there. But whenever there's the reviewing, if someone figures out who the person is, or people, because it's probably multiple, who are reviewing those photos, are, and figure out their access and all that other good stuff like that, they you open that person up, or those people up, to phishing attempts or something similar to that, to where you hack the social engineering aspect, I guess. So you hack the person, rather than hacking the actual system, because the system may be harder to hack. There's nothing that's unhackable, especially when
right.
people say, I hate when companies say it's unhackable, because it's
That's
usually
a
5
challenge.
minutes, or yeah, exactly, it's a challenge, or a day later that they got hacked, and it's
Yeah.
simply because you just said that, right?
Yes.
um,
Yes. It's
so
no
I'm not going
that
to say
that's
that.
an open invitation to hackers.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. um, I think there could be a law of diminishing returns, because that's the thing. A lot of it, when it all comes down to it, especially with hacking, is, and it's the same thing with like any sort of criminal activity, is that it depends on how long you want to take, right? It's
Yeah.
not that you can't, it's just how long do you want to work at this until you get in. For someone who's really determined, they can do it forever. They can do it for as long as they want. But
Yeah. Yeah.
most of the time, you want to get in, get out in very short period of time. So, like I said, that's why I say, when you enter that human element in there, I think that's when you do open yourself up as a back door, because that person is now that exploit, or
Well, they're
that
fallible,
back
right? Yeah.
door. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They're fallible. Yeah. So yeah, anytime, like you said, that humans involved. And you know, perfect point too with the hackers. If there's somebody who just got paid off big for ransomware, right, then they can have all sorts of time trying to hack into anything, really, which, you
Yep.
know, thousands of hacking attempts a day on major corporations from all over the world.
Hmm.
So there's plenty of people on the dark web trying to do this kind of stuff. But like you said, I don't think that's really any more of a threat to your information if you're an Apple user than anything else that they do. And I guess you kind of have to respect Apple for, even though they portray themselves as very confident in protecting your privacy while also keeping other people safe, they are still taking steps to ensure that people are comfortable with it, even though everything they've said, this is a non-issue with um, and simply is just to ensure and do their part, as many other corporations are, to crack down child pornography, because they weren't, and that was the thing. Google is. I mean, um, believe Amazon is as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Samsung is, and Apple notably was not. But they claim that's because they were trying to find this way. They're trying to develop this method, this artificial intelligence method to crack down on it. So I guess you have to give them a level of props for that, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
exactly. Um, I mean, it does make me wonder, and this is probably just me playing devil's advocate, right?
mm,
So at least knowing how like basic AI works, right? Usually you have to, and to make sure that it learns properly, you normally have to feed it a certain data set um, for it to understand and be able to recognize what is and isn't,
yeah,
whatever you want it to filter. So it is interesting to think of that. But anyway,
no, that's a good point. I'm not going to feed into that.
yeah.
You make a good point. It does make me wonder how they trained that. They
Hmm.
did talk about how they tried to fool it, but not how they trained it. That's kind of odd. But anyway, so let's jump over from that into our next topic. I know, Denison, it's pandemic related. Um, Christina says the devil don't need advocates. Right. A fact. That is a fact. But yeah, so um, let's see. Let's get into your topic with Microsoft and
Yeah.
keeping their offices closed, right? Because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Exactly. So, as I alluded to earlier, we are trying to, we are still in a pandemic. Even though, things are starting to open back up and it's starting to kind of feel like things are starting to get a little bit closer to norm, to the old normal, I should really say.
Yeah.
Um, the Delta variant is out there and is thriving, and it's becoming more and more of an issue. I mean, we're seeing this in politics on why it's becoming an issue. You're seeing it in medical reports on the amount of cases that are happening, as well as the amount of deaths. So it's sad to say, but we are starting to get back into the numbers that we had before we had the vaccine, or the vaccine was relative, or super available.
It's actually worse
So,
too. This Labor Day, this past
mm,
Labor Day weekend, right, was actually
mhm.
worse for COVID than it was the year before. So
Oh man.
um, we're kind of in a bad way. It is
Mhm.
mostly unvaccinated people, but
Yeah.
yes, you're right. It roars on. So go ahead and continue.
No worries. So with that in mind, a lot of corporations are trying to figure out how they want to do their return to work policy, because you have, big corporations like Apple and Google who are, trying to get more of they're trying to get their employees back. And it's funny because me and Christine have already talked about this a lot. That, you've got Apple and Google who are really trying to force their people to come back. And Google going to the lengths of making it to where if you stay remote, then you're going to get a pay cut in some form. Like, so if you're essentially, lived in California, but when you got to go and work remote, you moved to another state or something like that. Google's saying, well, hey, you're going to get paid that the rate that you would have gotten paid in that state if we would have hired you in that state. So usually a pay cut from, especially from where you are in California and stuff like that. So you've got these big corporations saying like, you need to come back. I think some of that is because of investments that they've made in their campuses, especially Apple and Google. Um, but with all that being said, you've got another big tech giant, another big tech um, company saying, hey, you know what? Delta variant's really bad. It's still causing issues for us. We are going to postpone indefinitely returning back to work,
Interesting.
at least in the US for their
Yeah.
US offices. And so it's just kind of a interesting and I think in some ways crazy move, right? Especially because you've had other two, like I said, the two other giants, Google and Apple, who are forcing or almost forcing their employees to come back, or Google or Microsoft, I should really say, is saying, no, let's wait on this, because we don't know where we're going to be, or we don't know how this is going to affect our employees and
Sure.
the environment that they're going to be around.
And that's the thing. You really have to balance the risk versus the gain. Yeah, if you bring,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you have 40% of your people are working remote, right? You bring them all back, 100% end up being in the business, but then um, you you get 20% or 25% that end up getting sick, right? Was
Mm-hmm.
that really worth it? My thing is this, and this is maybe a bit of a hot take, but is
Mm.
this because Microsoft has been big on Teams ever since the pandemic happened? It's been the main thing that they're
Mm-hmm.
promoting. Is this kind of a weird way to promote their product? Because think about it, and hear me out on this. Hear me out on this. You have the three tech giants, right? And Apple and Google are basically claiming that their work cannot be done as well at home. But
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is like, no, we can still do it. And since we can, you guys should stay safe and stay at home. You know what I mean? You see
Mm-hmm.
where I'm coming from with it? It is kind of
Mm-hmm.
interesting that I know, at least being a journalist, a lot of the issues we've had, not just at the station I work at, but across the industry, has been not
Mm-hmm.
being able to do the job as well and as efficiently in a remote status, right?
Yep.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for every industry because I don't work in every industry, but uh, couldn't you foresee or couldn't you see that as being the reason that Microsoft is doing the same thing versus what Google and Apple are doing?
I mean, I can see that because, yeah, you're right. The more people that they leave in the workforce, or sorry, leave in the remote capacity, the more users that you'll have to be a part of teams, um, and kind of tout how well they're doing and stuff like that, and kind of help them keep that foothold that they've started to grow and continue to have since the pandemic started. But I don't think so. It's the problem with it is like, and I don't know, right? I don't work for Microsoft, so I don't know. But I would imagine that most of their employees are only going to use Teams inside of work hours. So uh, if you wanted to get more users to start using Teams outside of work, I mean, we already know that they're pushing it via Windows 11, right? So it's going to be built into Windows 11. Uh, but when it comes to like actually utilizing Teams in an outside work capacity, I don't know if that'll really work. And using your own employees doesn't really help.
Sure.
Um, I think now, what I do think, if we want to go down that rabbit hole, is that I do think having their employees stay remote just helps them in general for like overall profits, right? Because that's less money that you have to put into maintaining your buildings. That's less money that you have to deal with when it comes to maintaining like um, some companies I know they give all their employees lunches if you're on campus, or they do all sorts of other things to, to help employee life and the environment and stuff like that. And if you take those out, you save on all that money. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just do that. It's like their operating costs are really lean because all of their workers are remote and most of their workers are having to deal with that stuff that normally Microsoft would provide. They provide that those their users or their employees are now providing that for themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that can easily be a good way. But to be honest, I think it's really just a legal and financial thing, because, and I feel like this is something that a lot of people overlook, is when users or when you bring your employees back into the office, you, and there's a big pandemic going on or whatever like that, you are somewhat responsible for their well-being. If you bring
Absolutely.
them back knowing that there's a big pandemic going on and there's a probability of your employees contracting the coronavirus, you bring them into the office, you have an outbreak in your office because of that. One, you've just quarantined all your employees, so now they're all having to go back to working um, themselves, or going to have to work um, on their own, or
Mhm.
I keep forgetting, remote work again.
Yeah, right.
And then you also have to deal with the fact that you have to now pay for their COVID tests. You have to clean down your work environment, which are all expenses that are not cheap.
They're not. You can get reimbursed by the state or federal government for those. You can, but you
You
still have to go
can.
through that process, though.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And depending on how many offices you have, especially because you're Microsoft, you have a lot of offices. That's a lot of money that you're having to throw down the drain. And even if you can appeal to get that money back, you have to go through that process,
sure.
which means you're paying someone else man hours to do that on top of whatever else they're having to deal with. So
Yeah.
that's just my thoughts.
No, I agree. Christina's jumping back on the live stream here. She says her company has space in San Francisco, but now that they're going remote first, the office is closing. So, yeah, I mean it's a cost saving measure, absolutely. And we talked about how this could be the new normal, but so far most companies have been like, let's get back to the old normal,
Yeah.
with bringing everybody in. With that said, why do you think that the opposite of what Microsoft is doing? Why do you think Apple and Google want people to be back in offices? What is their drive for that?
Uh, to be honest, I think it is the opposite of Microsoft. I think it's because they've invested so much in their office space, especially, right? Because you think about it, right? I'm sure you've heard these stories of Google providing all of their employees like uh, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Google, right? They're providing their employees food.
Right.
Uh, they have like a five-star chef at their on staff, essentially, at their office, at their Google office. So if you work at Google, you've got a five-star chef that you can eat free meals
Yeah.
um, from
It's
them.
awesome.
So, and then you've also got, like, they've got their sleeping pods that they have there. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like, and not to say that Microsoft hasn't invested this kind of stuff in their office as well, but I feel like Google and Apple are ones that have touted this a
Yeah.
huge amount. And they put so much money into their campus that now you have employees who want to stay home. I would imagine, at least I would almost feel like, you ungrateful little. It's
Right.
like, we
Right.
provided
Yeah.
all this money
It can't be
and put all
worse
this
than your
money.
home. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. So it's like, come back. I feel like that's their big thing, right? Apple relatively recently opened up their big, gigantic, super cool campus.
yeah.
I think it's been 10 years now or something like that, but it's a pretty crazy cool looking campus, and I can understand why they would want to um, bring people back to it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Plus, they're paying
Christine.
rent on it.
Oh, really? They don't even own it?
Yeah.
They just rent the space?
I mean, most places are. I don't know if them specifically, but you're paying money regardless on um, air conditioning and maintenance costs of just upkeeping a space like
Sure.
that. So
Sure. Yeah. Christina echoing those sentiments. Imagine building a $5 billion campus and it'll sit empty. Absolutely. You want to get
yep,
the most out of your investment. And I get that. Um, there are alternatives that you could do and sell off the space and all the things that you hired for it, all the people you hired for it, and all of that. But if you're renting it, like in the case you said, that kind of puts you in a strain there, and maybe you have a multi-year contract for it. The interesting
Mm-hmm.
thing that I want to say before we wrap on this episode is I'm not talking about laying down a sick beat either. But the interesting thing I want to say before we wrap it up is, with the president's plan, the Biden administration's plan that just came out in an effort to get more people vaccinated, I do kind of wonder, based off the conversation we're having, how many large corporations lobbied for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, everybody and their dog is acting like it's an overreach of power.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make me wonder if businesses like Google and Apple are pushing for this kind of thing, because now they have the legal authority, as does Microsoft, to force their employees to get vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or undergo
Exactly.
testing, strict testing every single day. And
Yeah.
with that in place, there'd be no reason, no physical reason, to have everybody work remote.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
And so I wonder if, with this push, this threat, um, to cut pay in the case of Google, if they will allow, or I'm sorry, if they will straight up force people to come back because they are offering the vaccine and offering testing. And just as a side note on that, I am interested to see what this will do for vaccine numbers, because I
Yeah.
think in Kansas, more companies are going to just, I don't even know how this is going to get policed. Let me be honest with that.
Yeah.
You can't expect OSHA to be at every street corner just checking to make sure going down. I mean,
Yeah.
OSHA doesn't even show up for months at a time for normal calls, right?
I
Um,
know. I know.
so I don't really know how they're going to police it, but I gotta believe in certain political climates, companies are going to lean more toward testing every day rather than forcing their employees to get vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Uh, so I did have like one quick hot take on that too
okay,
about just the big mandate that the Biden administration is pushing. Is it overreaching for them to do that, or is it just the right thing to do considering the circumstances that we're in?
yeah.
Like,
Go ahead.
because it's like, is that truly overreaching, or is it in the respects of keeping your country safe, like just part of your normal duties of
Yeah.
keeping the country safe and all that other good stuff like that?
Well, what's interesting about it is we're in a public health emergency, and people forget that because, well, they like to deny it, first of all. Um,
Hmm.
but, with that said, we are in a public health emergency, and with that comes different um, rules for leaders to abide by. And actually, I don't think many people remember this, but technically, in a situation like this, the chief public health officer, which in this case I believe is still Dr. Fauci, could be
Hmm.
wrong on that, but he technically has the authority to make these executive decisions when it comes to
Hmm.
these kind of things. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and so uh, in public health disasters, the chief public health officer gains the power of making executive decisions, and so that is something where um, you kind of throw the rule book out the window. Now, I think when people's potentially valid concerns, also a little conspiratorial concerns, are, where does it end? Uh,
Yeah.
what happens if they say a 6 foot white, brown, curly headed dude is a public health emergency, and then they kill me off, right?
Hmm.
Um, so, you know, I get that concern, but no, to me, this is something to try and keep people healthy, because eventually this will keep mutating. It may not
Yep.
happen this year, may not happen next year, may not happen the year after that. But if we continue to just be complacent about it, it'll get to a point where it can kill us off, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this needs to happen, but that's my opinion. But yeah, with that said, we need to bounce out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually have a gig that I'm getting over to. So I'm excited about that. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Please leave us a rating and review and subscribe if you like the episode. And then follow us on Facebook for all of our live streams, and go over to our website to find the best way to support us financially as well. We got all kinds of merch and apparel on there. All of that is linked in the description of this episode. But yeah, this was a good one, man. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you guys so much for catching up with us, and we'll catch up with you next week.